Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into your life as a writer, I want to begin our conversation, which is kind of it's something that I hope that a question I can move past, but it took so much time and it really changed so many things. The pandemic, 4 years ago, we were wrapping our heads around how we were going to get through it, how long it was going to last. So I'm curious, how did you make it through that time period, and how did it affect the writing that you do and the way that you live your life?
Um, yeah, so it was a really hard time period for everybody. I mean, that's not a question. As far as how it affected my life and the writing, it had a big dramatic effect for me because of the fact that my son was home and he was going through a lot of issues with ADHD and trying to learn at home. It wasn't a great environment for him.
Yeah.
And we had just had a lot of trauma in our family due to, injuries, etc. So it was kind of like one more extra thing that just caused more trauma and issues for us. So
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do every day. And the best way to do that is to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
sure. I help you to believe in God. So basically, I help people that either have questions and want to confirm their beliefs and or that don't believe so they understand why they should believe. So that's what basically my book is about, the 21 reasons for trusting in God. Is just like a great overview of 21 reasons to believe. So that's what I would answer to them. Now, third grade, that's fine. Too much younger, you have to be careful what you say, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the one thing that before we leave the whole idea of the pandemic, the one thing I'm curious about is that been this increased awareness on mental health. Do you find that coming out of this, there's a level of spiritual awakening? There's a level of spiritual thirst that exists that's different now?
I believe so because mental health became a big issue, like you said. It became a huge issue during the COVID pandemic. And I think people need to find a way to resolve those issues in their mind. They needed a way to feel peace and comfort. And a spiritual relationship is what gives you that comfort. It's that knowing that somebody there greater than us here on earth is taking care of us and looking out for us.
So, what did you want to be in the 3rd grade? What was your dream when you were in that position at career day?
Oh wow, third grade. So I really didn't know that I was playing the saxophone in band. I love doing that. I wanted to be an ice skater in the Olympics.
Okay. Okay.
That's what my goal was. I didn't have this fancy business, or I'm going to be a doctor type goals. I just had these simple, I love ice skating, so that's what I wanted to do.
So take me back to where you were born and raised and how these seeds of faith and writing became your life. How did you evolve to this point right now?
Oh, that's a long story. But basically, when I was young, my parents were very faithful. They had a strong belief system and they practiced that belief system on a regular basis. They instilled that into us as kids. And, kind of, I think everybody goes through it where you start out believing as a kid what your parents tell you, and then you go through that stage of, yeah, I'm adult now. I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out my life. And that, changes your belief. You hear more, you're open to the world then, especially nowadays with the internet and different types of social media. But really what brought me back around, believe it or not, I think it does it for a lot of people, is having a traumatic incident in your life. Trauma and hard things make us go, okay, where do I turn? What do I do? How do I resolve my feelings? How do I resolve this so that I can move on in life? And those traumas that happened in my life basically made me kind of turn back to God and made me say, okay, I need you more than ever. I don't know, and I was always very involved in church, religious activities, doing, vacation Bible school, all those things that, people do, but it was somewhat more superficial, I guess. And that's why I wrote the book is try to get people to go, okay, there's more to this than just oh yeah, we believe there's Jesus.
Yeah,
Thanks. We're good.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, who's been a hero? Who's been an inspiration for you in your life?
So one of my heroes was my uncle when I was young. I had two uncles that did ministry work. One stayed over in New Guinea for a long time. In fact, he is buried there. Um, big influence in my life. As I got older, I just really felt strongly about the Mother Teresa and what she did and her way of thinking, her beliefs. So she was amazing.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, spend a little time with them, who would that be?
Um, I have a couple of them, probably Lee Strobel, just because of his, non-belief to belief, and how he got there. I have a lot of respect for him and would love to meet him. Um, Jeff Cavins, he did a lot of Bible work and trying to, make it more understandable for us as humans to go, okay, this is what God's saying in there. So those are two big ones. Tim Tebow is fascinating to me as well, just because of his belief system and how he's putting that out there. So
So, with what you're doing every day, you obviously have to give a lot of yourself to help people believe in a certain way and to help improve their lives. What is that motivation for you to do that every day, to get up out of bed, to do that, and to also evolve as a human yourself?
yeah, motivationally, it was my son. So that's what kind of started me on this path. And I didn't know it at the time, but he didn't believe. And he came to me one day and said, Mom, my influence at school, my peers, they don't believe. And, unless I have some sort of proof, I'm not going to continue to go down this path. And I asked him, quite frankly, if I gave you something to believe, if I gave you something, some sort of proof, would you believe? And would you listen at least? And so he did, and he became a believer. And that's kind of what my book is. My book is giving those reasons. It's giving solid information, scientific, historical. There's 100,000 different artifacts that prove the biblical, information that's there. And having those, there and available to you, it makes a big difference for people. And that's why I want these young adults to read this book, to see this, those that don't believe that there is information out there that is factual, that can help you to, at least get that footstep in and start believing.
So, what was the book when you were growing up that you read that really opened up the doors for you to want to read more or potentially write?
Wow. You know what? I never thought I was going to be a writer.
Yeah.
I it was not a thing. When I was in high school, I wrote, some in my literature classes, and I was told that I was a good writer, but I was never a good speller. So to turn around and be writing now, there's a lot of tools out there that helps you. So, um, I always felt that the written word, that, the Bible and different things that were in writing, had a lot of influence on people. And, my reading wasn't the strongest, but there's a lot of, s- like, I don't know, science fiction. I love, science fiction just because it's so just out there. And, so then to turn around and go writing something about real life beliefs, it's kind of it's a big deal to me to be able to write about Jesus and Christianity. So,
So, what's been the best fan letter feedback you've gotten from your book?
my best feedback is it's kind of like a surprise almost. Like they go, wow, that's really good. That's really insightful. You made me think. You made me, want to learn more or learn something that I didn't know about. So that's really important to me because that was kind of the purpose of the book.
Yeah. So, if you could go back in time, let's say you have a dream tonight, you run into the younger version of you, 18-year-old version. and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version of you, and would that young version listen?
My young version would, not everybody's young version would.
Yeah,
Um, just kind of still pursuing and praying, and not because that's, when you're college age.
yeah.
And college age is so hard. And I think, I turned away for a while just because it was a big deal to make yourself get up and go to church,
Yeah.
Who wants to get up and go to church? You're in college, you're having a good time, you're doing whatever. Um, to just kind of say, "Hey, there's more to this and you know it. You grew up that way." And not everybody grows up that way, but just kind of continuing to pursue and learn and broaden your understanding.
So at the end of the day, of all the things that you've done in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I would say I'm proud that I did write the book, obviously. I'm proud that I went back and really have a relationship with God now. It's not just a superficial, I am a believer. Okay, let me go out and do this, that, and the other that everybody else is doing and partying and never really turn to God. That whole I have a connection with God and I can feel God speaking to me and being here with me. It's totally different. It's not the same thing as just I'm saying, "Okay, I believe." There's a totally different level of connection, and you can find God working in your life and feel his comfort when you have that connection.
So there's a lot of people out there that have these moments where they, like, very strong moments where they believe that there's a higher power, there's a God, whatever God you subscribe to. Was there a moment like that for you? Was there a moment where you saw something or something serendipitous happen that was just undeniable? Have you had those moments?
My biggest moments, yes, throughout time. I mean, I feel like there's little things, and I think everybody, you have to be open to them, but everybody has little things that kind of goes, "Okay, realize there really is a God," but my biggest moment was when I was in a car crash. And my friend, she was driving, her seatbelt didn't work. This was back when you had the really big cars and you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, those type of things.
Yeah.
Aging myself here. And she just was looking at me, talking to me, and I turned and looked up and we were going through a red light and hit a car. Didn't know till afterwards we hit a tree as well. Um, to make the long story short is I saw somebody in the window talking to me and asked me if I was okay. Um, later I woke up. So it was kind of like that. Who's that person? Where'd that person go?
Yeah.
Couldn't find them. Asked other people to look for him. He wasn't there. Found out that I had went into the windshield because I didn't have a seatbelt on. I went into the windshield and hit the windshield pretty hard. Um, When they took the car in to, the junkyard, the, manager there said, "I'm sorry for your loss." And my friend and her family were like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, the person that hit the windshield, uh, had to have passed." And they're like, "Why?" "Well, I've never seen anybody hit the windshield like that." And they're like, "No, she's perfectly fine at home, little
Wow.
sore, but that was it." So, to me, that was a big, big sign. That was a
Yeah.
big sign that there's something I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody that's
And
watching out for me.
yeah, and you've done it. You got the book. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your readers, everyone that you know, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm just an everyday person who believes in God, but felt called to be doing something for God and just following what He wants me to do. And that's all I'm trying to do is just try to listen and help pursue Him and help others pursue God.
So if anyone out there wants to pick up 21 Reasons, they want to reach out to you, learn more about you, any of the good business, where can they go?
They can go to my website, labuckley.com. They can also go to Amazon, obviously, and find my book there. They can go to my Facebook page. It is under LA Buckley. There's a lot of Buckleys out there. And as far as, finding me other places, they can see me I'm on TikTok, LinkedIn, all those great places. So just kind of look out for LA Buckley and you can find me there.
Excellent. Laura, thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it
My
too.
pleasure.